Coming up is our Tip of the Week segment. This is a segment where we show you a trick or two on how to use a certain feature on your phone or in a given app. If you have a tip that you would like to share with our listeners, feel free to send us such a tip to contact us at blindandroidusers.com. And now for this week's episode, here's your Tip of the Week.
We close this week's episode with the tip of the week from Warren, who shows you how to prioritize messages in Google Messages by pinning them to the top of your conversations list.
Hi, Warren here for Blind Android Users Podcast. For episode 254, Tip of the Week, this is demonstrating how to manage your messages. In other words, I'm talking about how to prioritize your messages that you would like to be at the top. For example, if you have lots of messages and there are those that you want to be prioritized, then you want to make sure that those are pinned to the top so that regardless of the number of messages that you have, the ones from the people that you want to prioritize will always be at the top. For this demonstration, I'm utilizing my Pixel 10 Pro XL running Android QPR 2 Beta 3. Here's how to go about doing that. Step 1. Find the message or the contact that you want to have to the top. I'm going to demonstrate here using John, for example.
Sent to John Dyer, please. Do it when you have...
So here's John, and I'm going to just double tap and long pressed on it.
Sent to John Dyer. Showing items 5 to 16.
Now that I have long pressed on John Dyer, we got those toolbars there at the top. If you start from the top left corner of your phone, you will hear done, meaning one message has been selected or I'm done with the selection. So you got, starting from the top, we've got
done button.
And to the right of that,
1.
The number of messages that were selected. In this case, we selected 1. Moving right.
Pin to top button.
We have pin to top, and that's what we want. And to the right of that, we've got 4 buttons. We got
snooze notifications, archive button, delete button,
and
more options button.
But what we want to do, though, is pin John Dyer to the top. I'll now tap on pin to top.
Pin to top button. Pinned 1 of 20 conversations messages.
There we go. So I have now pinned a John Dyer to the top of the list. So regardless of the number of messages I get hereafter, even if I have 100 messages, and even if I haven't had anything from John, his would be there at the very top. And that's how you go about prioritizing what messages stay at the top. And in the event that you've changed your mind and you want to get John from the top of your list, all that needs to happen is to repeat the same process. In other words, find John Dyer, long press on it, and tap on unpinned. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Sent to John Dyer, please. Showing toolbar for action.
And now that I have long pressed on John Dyer, all I have to do is tap on
unpin from top button.
And if I tap here,
39,700.
There we go. There's no more John there at the top. And that's how you go about prioritizing what messages stay at the top. And like I said, when you're tired of having that person at the top, just simply long press on it and go tap on unpin. And that would conclude this week's Tip of the Week. If you like what we're doing, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, thanks for listening.
I think one thing, just to clarify, and thank you to John for pointing this out on our private Telegram podcast crew group, is that pinning a message, pinning one message, will make sure it stays at the top of your list, regardless of how recent the conversation last message was. So if you get a text from a non-prioritized message, the pinned message is going to stay above it, as you'd expect. Where that starts to change a little bit is if you pin more than one conversation. So let's say Warren thinks that we are all very important as co-hosts, so we all get pinned to the top of his group. Those pinned messages will shift about in their pinned positions depending on who texts when. So it's almost its own little hierarchy. Like they will all four of them would stay, or five of them would stay pinned above everything else, but the order of those pinned messages will change whenever that conversation receives a recent message.
Yeah, and that makes sense because the whole idea is that the prioritized people are staying on top. And so if I add Ed first and then I add John second, Karen third, if I got a message from Karen and I didn't get a message from John or Sally or Ed, even if Karen was the last person I added to the pinned list, her message would show up on the top because she's the one with the latest message. But the whole idea is that at least you know that the prioritized ones are always there on the top. And that's the whole premise of pinning messages. You don't have to be going through the clutter of messages to find, for example, because sometimes I want to look at something that John sends me, but because I haven't had any message from him in a long time, I have to scroll and scroll or do a search to find it. But now with that, at least it will be among the very first ones. And so it sure comes in very handy.